Okay, so we're going to start with a fraction. For today, we're going to start with a fraction, and we need to write it as a decimal. Use repeating decimals when necessary. We're going to learn how to do this in two different methods. For today's method, we're going to do division. For tomorrow's method, I'm going to use the denominator, the number at the bottom. So there's two ways we're going to learn. So I recommend you guys watch both videos. Except for today, we're going to use division. I'm going to use dividing. So we learn to divide as a little box. The number on the top goes inside the box, and then the number at the bottom goes outside. So I'm going to see how many times 8 goes into 1. And then the 1 at the inside has a decimal. I'm going to bring my decimal point on the top. Right? I'm expecting a decimal answer. Now, inside the box, I can put as many zeros as I need. I know 8 cannot go into 1 because 8 is bigger. So I'm going to put a 0 there. Ignore the decimal for right now. I'm just thinking, how many times does 8 go into 10, right? Let me put the 0 in the front because there's nothing in there. So 8 goes into 10, goes in 1 time. So now 1 times 8 is 8. Let me subtract this, and I get a 2. Okay. Now this is what we call a remainder right now. I'm going to stop once my remainder is 0. Okay. So it's not a 0, so let me add. Remember, I can add as many zeros as I need. So now my question is, how many times does 8 go into 20? I know 8 times 2 is 16. When I subtract this, I get a 4. Okay, that's not 0, so let me continue. Now 8 goes into 40. I'm going to say 5 times because 8 times 5 is 40. When I subtract this, I get 0. So that's where I stop. My decimal is going to be 0.125. All right, let's take a look at question number 2. To be honest, I'm just going to worry about the decimal. The fraction. 1 divided by 2. Now, that number, that 6, the number before the fraction, that number there, it's going to go here before the decimal. Remember how question number 1, we had a 0. We had no number in front of the fraction. So that 6 in front of the fraction is just, that 6 goes before the decimal. So 6 point something. I'm just going to work with the fraction. 1 divided by 2. Okay, so I know I can add zeros here. So my question here is, how many times does 2 go into 10? I'm going to say 5 times, because 5 times 2 is 10. I subtract this, and I get nothing. So there's my answer, 6.5. That 6, the number in front of the fraction, is just the number before the decimal point. All right, let's take a look at question number 3. I'm going to go 1 divided by 3. There's a decimal there. Now, I don't see a number before the fraction, so let me put a 0. My question here is, how many times is 3 going to 10? Right? How many times can we fit 3 into 10 without going over? So I know that 3 times 3 is 9. That's the closest I can do multiplication, closest to 10 without going over. All right, so when I subtract this, I get a 1. Can bring an extra 0. How many times does 3 go into 10? That's what I was just asked, right? How many times does 3 go into 10? So it seems like it's going to give me 3, and I do this again, and it's going to ask me how many times is 3 going to 10, and I can continue writing a bunch of 3s. Now, I will never stop. So the way I'm going to write this, I'm just going to write 0 point, there's a 3, but I'm going to put a little line above the 3. What that little line represents is that the 3 keeps on repeating. So 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. Okay, so that's how I'm gonna write it. 0.3, but my 3 has a little line right above. Right, I'm not gonna continue writing a bunch of 3s. Now here, let's take a look at question number 4. 1 divided by 4. There's a decimal there. I don't see a number in front of the fraction, so let me put a 0 in front of the decimal. Take a look at this. How many times does 4 go into 10? I'm gonna say 2 times, right? Because 4 times 2 is 8. When I subtract this, 10 minus 8, I get a 2. All right, let me bring an extra 0. How many times does 4 go into 20? I'm gonna say 5 times, because 5 times 4 is 20. When I subtract that, I get nothing. So there's my answer, 0.25. So given a fraction, we can write it as a decimal using division.